The story of the day before is still haunting us even a month later. And this is going to go on haunting us for a long time. And we know this as the biggest gaming scam of the decade. Probably ever, actually, now that we think about it. And the story's not over. There has been some recent updates from Fantstic this week where they still refuse to accept responsibility and just still are defending themselves and actually getting frustrated and angry with people that are slating the game. You need to understand, Fantastic, if you're going to release a game that is absolute trash and is nothing like what you promised everyone, then people are going to get the ump and people are going to be annoyed. And we are going to talk about everything that's happened and quickly recap on it, and then we're going to talk about the most recent updates that's happened over the last couple of days. What's up, everyone? I'm the Game Hawk, and we all know the story by now of the day before. If you don't, then I'm wondering where you've been. Have you been living under a rock, maybe? Because I'm not really sure how you don't know what's happened. But basically, the day before was a game that was advertised as a zombie survival MMO in a big open world where you could explore this vast map that was absolutely huge. It was built off Unreal Engine. It's going to have incredible graphics. It had a huge advertising campaign. It was featured at NVIDIA's press release that they had a couple of years ago, when they advertised an NVIDIA GeForce Now graphics, and it was featured in that as being a standout game. And that really is what gave it a lot of traction. And then they even had a billboard up in Times Square in New York, and this game was just absolutely hyped up to the max to be this incredible game. And on the adverts, it looks so good. There was hordes of zombies. There was a big open world you could explore. It looked like The Last of Us, but on steroids. It looked so good. And then the day before was released, and it was absolute trash. It was nothing like the game that was advertised. The storyline was bland and boring. The actors were uninterested in the roles. They were just plain and dull. The open world map was basically an extraction looter shooter with hardly any zombies. You had to run around and look for ages to find. They were easy to kill. There was no challenge in it whatsoever. And if you encountered other players that were much better than you at high levels than you would get absolutely destroyed. There was no skill involved. It wasn't like something like DMZ, where if you come in with a small gun and you're fighting a team with a 3-plate that's 20 levels above you, you could still beat them if you was better at the game than them. It was nothing like that. You would just get absolutely trashed by people if you come in to the game as a noob. It was filled with bugs. There was little to no progression. It was just an absolute trashy asset flip. You couldn't even do something like parkour or jump over walls. Your hands were useless. There was no melee introduced. Even basic gaming mechanics, it didn't have any of it. And 4 days after the day before was released, Fantastic released this statement saying, "Today we announce the closure of Fantastic Studio. Unfortunately, the day before has failed financially and we lack the funds to continue. All income received is being used to pay off debts to our partners. We invested all our efforts, resources and man hours into the development of the day before, which was our first huge game. We really wanted to release new patches to reveal the full potential of the game, but unfortunately we don't have the funding to continue the work. It's important to note that we didn't take any money from the public during the development of the day before. There were no pre-orders, no crowdfunding campaigns. We worked tirelessly for 5 years, pouring our blood, sweat and tears into the game. At the moment, the future of the day before and prop night is unknown, but the servers will remain operational. We apologise if we didn't meet your expectations. We did everything within our power, but unfortunately, we miscalculated our capabilities. Creating games is an incredibly challenging endeavour. We're grateful to everyone who supported us during these difficult years. It's been a fantastic journey over the past 8 years." And then they list the journey that they've had. You didn't just miscalculate your capabilities. There has been numerous people online that have proved that this was just an asset flip, where it's been cheaply made and they haven't put any effort in whatsoever. Now, I'm not claiming to be a gaming developer, and I wouldn't even try to make a game because I know I couldn't do it. But then Fantastic probably should have done the same thing. They couldn't develop a game that was good and had all this hype, and it was just absolute trash. So then they've done it anyway. And then a few days later, my toner, the publisher for Fantastic, released this statement. "To all of the day before players, as the investor of the day before, we would like to provide some updates on the current situation around the game. We are sorry for the fact that the game didn't meet the expectations of the majority of players. Today, we will work with Steam to open up refunds for any players who choose to make a refund. We are in contact with Fantstic regarding the future of the game. Now, it's no surprise that the studio Fantstic shut down 4 days after release. The Steam issued refunds to people. It had overwhelmingly negative reviews, and then eventually it was taken off of Steam last week. But then people continued to slate the day before. People were talking about it in blogs. People were making YouTube videos about it. People were making all sorts of content about how trashy it was and how much of a scam it was. And then Fantstic released this statement, which has since been deleted. Now, I'm not going to read this all to you. I'm going to let you pause the video and read this in your own time. But essentially, they are not accepting any responsibility for any of the failures, catastrophic failures, I might add, that were caused by this game. This game will go down in history, Fantstic, whether you like it or not, as one of the biggest failures in gaming history. And it is down to you and your failures and the mistakes that you have made. Miscalculating your abilities is a massive understatement. And blaming content creators and bloggers is really just a cheap shot and stupid to say, because people like us, people that make videos on games, we want our audience to get the best possible experience from any game. Now, don't get me wrong, games are personal experience and personal preference. Some people are going to love a game, other people are not going to like it and not bother playing it. But the general consistent thing that people will say is, this game's okay, but it's not really for me. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. You watch something like IGN's reviews, right? Now, IGN always remain impartial. They will get different people to play and review games. And they will always tell you whether the game is for them or not, but they will give it an overall rating based on what the game was supposed to be and whether it actually delivers on that or not. And IGN rated the day before a whopping 1 out of 10. And that is the lowest I've ever seen an IGN rating. And that just goes to show how terrible this game was. It wasn't due to a hate campaign. It wasn't due to issues that players had. It was due to the fact that the game generally sucked and was absolutely terrible. And IGN and other big game reviewers that are impartial, that don't spit hate campaigns, they proved that. Now, it doesn't matter. The servers have gone down, and hopefully this game will never see the light of day again. But it just goes to show that even a studio like Fantstic refused to accept responsibility for a trashy game that they've released. All they had to say was, we accepted that the game was terrible, we made a massive mistake, we apologise to everyone, we wish you all the best in the future. But even in this statement, they are still defending their actions. What can you say? Now, if you do want to see a fantastic game and what the day before should have been, then I'm going to be playing The Last of Us very soon.